the parts of us that we shame most, the parts of us that we deny or push down or try to just avoid most are also the parts of us that have the greatest gifts to give.
Gabrielle Bernstein, a role model for spiritual seekers.
We are in the studio. Big freaking day, Josh.
I know, it's super exciting, right?
Big day. Today, Josh, is the freaking day.
Very exciting.
This is a big day.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is a big day. So today is the day that my 10th book goes on Amazon.
Mazel tov.
Self-help. This is your chance to change your life. And the cover is revealed. The cover that I originally designed before it went to the proper designer, I originally designed it on Canva. Do you remember that? I was like, oh, you guys, look, here's my book cover. I literally made it on Canva, which, by the way, it's fucking good. It's a good cover.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about the cover and then we'll dive in. So how did you come to design the cover?
I had a vision in my mind. And I remember Wayne Dyer would always print out his book covers and put them like on a dummy book kind of and put it next to his desk as he was writing his book. So it was like, it was manifesting as if, like it was already in form as he was writing it. And so I kind of wanted to get the cover design and I put it on my desktop of my computer, like just, you know, because now I can see it every day. But I wanted that cover design early just for that same manifesting reason.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm not going to wait for anybody. I'm just going to go do it. Yeah. And I had a vision in my meditation of this sort of like 70s looking, and the title's self-help. And so it was like really emphasizing the self-help, not having my face on it to really democratize the work. So I'm like full face on the back. So if you recognize me and it's helpful, but really it's about everyone. It's not about me. This is about you as the reader. It's about you accessing your self, your resourced higher self, and letting that self help you.
Yeah.
And help all the parts of you. So I really wanted the title to stand out. I'm like a Canva designer. And so I wanted the title to stand out. And I had this vision of this sort of like salmon-y color, like very like sunsetty 70s vibe. And getting that color with a Pantone is a truly. It really isn't easy to find that color exactly once it's in print. So in any case, I then made it and then I sent it off to the actual designer and he just mocked up a cleaner, more sophisticated version with a font that made sense. But it was the same title, the same cover. Same cover that I designed. Yeah, it's my design.
It's amazing.
I know, I'm a cover designer.
Well, we know that you're a designer.
I'm a Canva designer. But yeah, so officially people, everyone listening right now, the book, Self-Help, my 10th book in print. It's not out until December 31st, 2024. Really like New Year's Eve.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
But you can go get it right now. So this is actually the big thing. We're going to riff about this book today, but this is the most exciting part. I'm going to do a full day in November, a full day workshop masterclass, full day, 6-hour masterclass on the book where I prepare the readers, all the early readers, anybody that pre-orders this book gets this full day Gabby self-help masterclass. Now, if you want to come the whole day, you can dip in, dip out. It's online. You can join from the comfort of your home. And all you have to do is pre-order the book. So just go to deargabby.com/self-help, order the book there, and then you put in your information and you get an immediate, beautiful, amazing VIP ticket to this event.
That's amazing.
I'm only giving those VIP tickets for the next week. So deargabby.com/self-help, pre-order that book right now. So go check out the cover on Amazon, read about it, listen to this episode. If you're like, yes, I'm into that, go grab your copy because then I'm going to do this masterclass. And in the masterclass in November, what I'm going to do is really tee people up to workshop the book, understand the 4-step process that I teach in the book, which I can touch into a bit today.
Yep.
And to see it happen in real time, I'm going to be workshopping people in real time and to really experience it. So just go pre-order the book and you get this for free. The workshop's completely free for any pre-order people.
I got to say that's so thrilling because imagine any book that you're excited to read, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a preamble to the book, you get this literally like this deep dive into it. And, you know, I have had the privilege of reading the book and you know how I feel about the book. It's friggin' amazing. But I think for the reader to have this foundation, it's going to be really profound.
Yeah, imagine like you're about to open the ultimate self-help book, but you get this workshop, full day workshop on the method before you even read it.
Yeah.
It's like takes out so much of the guesswork and lays a foundation. go get your VIP ticket. The VIP ticket just includes like an after party, and only people that can ask questions during the training are the people that are in that VIP bucket. So,
Okay.
that you become eligible to ask questions and be workshopped.
Amazing.
So if you know you're going to get the book, go immediately, deargabby.com/self-help. Okay. So this is like our chat. We don't want to give too much away about the book. We've been talking about it for a long time, but you can like kind of AMA me a little bit with boundaries.
Well,
AMA with bumpers.
Well, like I just said, I had the privilege of reading it earlier this year. I texted you immediately. I think I may have been on a plane, and there was many things that stuck out to me, and I circled them. So we'll get to those in a later episode. But one of the things that really, really stuck out was a section heading that says, "Self-forgiveness is a spiritual experience."
All right, gorge. I don't even remember writing these things. Okay, gorgeous. So this book is all about having a greater sense of connection to your internal condition and to the parts of yourself that you otherwise might think are bad parts of you, right? So maybe if you have addiction, or if you're controlling, or if you are apathetic, or you identify as somebody who is an overachiever to a fault, or a perfectionist to a fault. These are parts of you that are working really hard to keep you feeling safe. And the book is all about helping you connect inward, look inward, recognize these different parts of yourself that you might otherwise shame and shun. And to use your word, forgive.
Yeah.
Befriend these parts, relax them, calm them, notice them, give them connection, become curious about these parts of yourself. And ultimately, there is a chapter in the end of the book about self-forgiveness. And the part of you that's connecting inward is your highest self. It's your undamaged, resourced self. And that's why this book is called Self-Help, because all of us have inside of us self with a capital S. And that's the courageous part of us, the calm part of us, the compassionate part of us, the connected part of us, creative, confident, all of these beautiful qualities that are C qualities. And when we start to develop a connection to self, then self can be the part that connects inward. And so we're not looking at ourselves inside and saying, oh, you're a because you're still doing that thing, or I hate you, or you suck because you're still using drugs, or you're horrible because you can't stop raging on team calls. Oh, poor Josh. But instead looking at these activated parts of who we are, and these sort of sometimes shameful, we might see them as shameful, and seeing them through the lens of love and compassion.
Well, two things. One, the shameful part really, I think, for me, resonates because, there are parts of me, like the people-pleasing part, that I used to be so embarrassed to even admit to myself, let alone out loud, that if someone was like, Josh, you're just a people pleaser, I would I would want to just die of shame and embarrassment and think that was just so horrible. But I think one of the things that I've learned through the IFS process, just reading your book, being with you, hearing the experts speak on it as well, is that it's not about being embarrassed or ashamed of it. Like you just said, it's befriending it, loving it, forgiving it, and letting it be.
And what if I told you that you had within you the power to heal that part's extreme behaviors, right? So let's say the people pleaser part, when it's in its sort of raw form, protecting you and kind of activated.
Yep.
What if I were to tell you that there's a self-healer inside of you? Mm-hmm. There's an adult resourced part of you that could help that people pleaser feel more calm, feel more safe, feel more connected, but not make it go away. Because the thing that I can say to you is that people pleaser part of you is also your superpower.
Right.
Because you care, because you are committed, because you love, because you want to be of service. So you don't want to ever get rid of that people pleaser. We want to help the people pleaser feel safe, feel connected, feel calm, feel like it's seen. And so when you start to use the practices in this book, when you use the 4-step check-in method that's inside this book, it will guide you to be able to have a different experience of really for the people pleaser part of you to feel safe, to feel seen, to feel soothed, to feel accepted, forgiven. And in that healing of that part of you, it can start to settle, be less extreme and not reactive, and then thrive in its natural role because you have a superpower that is a superpower. So when it's relaxed, it's your superpower. When it's extreme, it becomes, for all of us in our own extreme protection mechanisms, it can become, for me, like I have the controller in her extreme pattern when she's activated and scared and all that is a bitch on calls, or she's, forcing things or pushing things, or, historically really tough, right? She's much healthier now. But the controller is also the part of me that wrote 10 books in 13 years and has served a lot of souls, right? So the parts of us that we shame most, the parts of us that we deny or push down or try to just avoid most are also the parts of us that have the greatest gifts to give.
Wow. Yeah, just even hearing you explain that is just so calming. So I, I want people who are listening to understand that, like, that's really available to them as
That's what this book is about.
And, like you said it, and you say it in the book, like, you're not a therapist, but you're democratizing this therapeutic modality that we can all apply as self-help, hence the name of the book.
That's right. So I'm democratizing internal family systems therapy, which listeners of the show have heard me talk about. But if you're new to the show, never heard it before, IFS is a model that was created and channeled and brought to the world by my very dear friend, Dr. Richard Schwartz, Dick Schwartz. He's been on the show multiple times. We'll link in the show notes. And the thesis of IFS is simple. It's profound, but I'm going to simplify it. It's that we have a lot of different parts of who we are. So if you've ever said things like, oh, part of me gets really outraged when my husband pisses me off, or a part of me is really apathetic, or a part of me is an addict, we can recognize that these parts of ourselves have had a role in our life. They've been protecting us. These extreme patterns, behaviors, triggered responses, they're protection mechanisms. And if IFS calls them protector parts, what are these protection mechanisms protecting against? They're protecting against burdened young child parts of us, the parts of us that were traumatized as children, the parts of us that were told that we were inadequate or unlovable or didn't feel good enough. We all have them in our own ways. Maybe we learned them through our parents. Maybe we learned them on the playground.
Right.
But we had these experiences from childhood that were so extreme, we didn't have the resources or the adult figures to help us process them. So we exiled them. We said, I'm going to lock you up. Not literally, but we unconsciously locked them up and said, I'm never going to feel that shame and that inadequacy again. And we built up all these compensating behaviors, protection mechanisms to ever have to face, to avoid having to face those protectors again. I can see it in my 5-year-old, right? So Ollie, he has a protector that's like, I'm better than everybody. I'm better than them. I know where that came from. When he was 3, he was put into a class with 3 to 6-year-olds in a Montessori program. And I think there's many good things about these programs, but for my son, 3 to 6 wasn't right. And there was a big kid in the class who he was obsessed with. But of course, the 6-year-old doesn't want to have anything to do with the 3-year-old, but they're in the same class. And so he built this misguided belief that I have to be the big guy, I have to be cool, I have to be perfect at everything in order to be good enough. And so his protection mechanism is, I'm better than everybody. I'm the best one. I'm better than you. I'm better than you. I already know how to play soccer. I already know how to do science. I'm good at math. I can spell. I'm like, dude, you can't spell. But like, I don't say that to him. But so I see that's a protector that he built really young, right? He had this like small T trauma at 3 years old with this big kid who he wanted to be like, but the big kid had nothing to do with him. And so he learned, I got to be better than everybody, right? And so that's a protector part. And they develop in these very young years. Now, thankfully for Ollie, his mother's Gabby Bernstein, and working with him to process it. But most of us did not have Gabby Bernstein as a mother to process these extreme, or maybe less extreme, but still monumental moments. We didn't have processing. We didn't have acknowledgement. We didn't have feelings met or heard or seen. We didn't have therapists brought to us if we had a trauma, none of it. And so what did we do? We pushed it down and said, I'm never going to feel that feeling again. And immediately, as young children, just like Ollie, built up these protection mechanisms. I'm better than everybody else, or I'm perfect at that, which, if it's not processed properly, he may never even start things because he's afraid if I'm not perfect at it, I won't do it, right? But I'm helping him with that. Thank God. So Most of us don't have Gabby Bernstein as a mother, but what we do have is self inside. We all have a really, really, really valuable resource inside of us, which is an ever-present internal parent. It's that calm and courageous part inside. And so the whole book is about getting to know these protector parts, these protection mechanisms that have been with us forever, right? Since we were 6, since we were 3, Ollie was 3, right? Since we were really, really little, getting to know these protection mechanisms and helping them feel a connection to self, establishing a glimmer of self. And even if a little bit of compassion comes through, even if just listening to this, like you said before, I feel calmer when you spoke about my part, my people pleaser in that way. That is a sign that there's self here. Calm is a quality of self. So you started to feel calmness when I was in my self energy saying, your people pleaser is a rock star. We need him, or whatever you gender it. You can have no gender. Pizza parts don't have to have genders. I love that people pleaser. And when you start to feel that compassion that I have for the people pleaser, you felt calm. And so through the guidance in this book, in this 4-step process, you're going to get to know these parts of yourself and you're going to bring self to them. And it's an act as if kind of process. The more you do it, the more you experience it. The more you experience it, the more you know it. And then the more hope is developed.
And what would you say, like, because I know, I mean, my friends are like, oh, I don't have any trauma. I'm fine. Like, there are people out there who really don't believe that they need any sort of introspection or self-help at all.
They're definitely not going to pick up the book Self-Help. They're definitely not listening to me right now. And they're definitely not pre-ordering the book to get the VIP ticket to the live event in November. So it's just, I'm speaking to the converted, right? I mean, if you don't want to heal, right? The subtitle is, this is your chance to change your life. If you are somebody that's like never touched a self-help book before, but that book or that title, for whatever reason, just like keeps following you around on Amazon or it just falls off the shelf, then you know it's your time. All I need to be able to teach is the slightest willingness. As they say in 12 Step, the mustard seed of hope. But if you're not interested, it's not your time. You read it when you need it. Like once it's like the biggest book on the planet and everybody's talking about it, maybe you'll crack it open, you know? Or maybe your partner will be practicing it. And as a result, you'll see such great change in them that maybe you'll pick it up one afternoon because it's on the table, right? But I'm not talking to the unconverted because frankly, this book does require a desire to heal and a desire to be free, a desire to become your own inner healer, desire to feel empowered that there is absolutely a new way of living, that you can live completely free. And I am living proof of that, bro. Oh my God.
So is it fair to say, just to break it down, like, is it fair to say that the goal is to be in self?
That's a great question, Josh. Thank you. Okay. The goal of this book is not to live in self. You're not going to live in your courageous, calm, connected, compassionate place all the time. But the goal is to know that when you're not there, that's a part that's activated, that you're not an asshole. You just had a part of you that was activated, right? So many a time I've called you or messaged the team after a team Zoom call where I have a controller part that's very active in my workplace. And she can get very activated if she feels like people aren't listening to me or if things feel out of control or things aren't getting done. And so she can be a real bitch on those calls. But what'll happen is after, I won't shame or blame myself, or I won't blame everybody else, right? Those are another 2 forms of protectors. But instead, or judge myself or anything. But instead, I'll notice what happened and I'll do the 4-step process in the book. I'll choose to check in with the part that's present. That's step 1, choose to check in. And then I'll start to become curious about my feelings and my thoughts and my sensations just after the call. And I'll notice like I'm feeling so outraged and I'm feeling like I'm so out of control. And I'll notice the thoughts that I'm having, like so-and-so didn't do it the way I wanted. And I'm just extending curiosity, right? And then the 3rd step is I'll compassionately connect to the part. And once I have that curiosity going, I feel like I notice the part more and I'm connected to it. And I'll ask the part of me, what do you need right now? And oftentimes what I'll hear is, I need to calm down, or I need breath, or I need some compassion, or I need to be heard. And when I ask the part what they need, the part has this freedom to say, I need this from you, Gabby. And the fourth step is I'll check in and I'll see, are there any qualities, those C qualities? Do I feel calmer now? Is there more compassion? Do I feel a little courageous to speak up and ask the team for what I need in a calmer way? And always there'll be some C qualities present. I always feel calmer, feel more connected. And that's the 4 steps. Noticing this part, becoming curious about it, compassionately connecting to it, and then checking to see if there's these qualities of C qualities of compassion or courage or curiosity that's present. And then leaning into those C qualities. And rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Every single chapter of this book has that same 4-step process, but just in different forms. Maybe some are incorporating more meditation or prayer or spiritual practice. And those 4 steps, my friend, once you start to master them, they become so ingrained inside of you that you no longer have to fear your fear because you know where to turn. You just rinse and repeat, 4-step check-in process. No matter what happens to you, you can choose to lean inward and follow these 4 steps. It's the most empowering experience of your life because you no longer have to run, you no longer have to hide, and you no longer have to feel hopeless because there's help inside.
And you make it sound really simple, right?
Yeah.
And I remember the first time, this was maybe over a year ago, we were sitting in a coffee shop just down the street in Canal, and I was telling you a story, and you're like, well, can we just check in? Do you feel comfortable? And we were sitting, in a public space. And I remember you sort of beginning to ask me these questions, and it was really remarkable how quickly it was effective.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it, everybody saw it just in you 20 minutes ago when I was like just curious or compassionate towards the people pleaser. And the second that you felt my self energy, genuine compassion towards the people pleaser, you felt calm, C quality of self. So it is fast. And look, in IFS therapy, the therapist would do this in a very detailed way, and it's a beautiful journey. It's like an interview process, and the goal ultimately is not just to get to these protection mechanisms, but to calm down these protector parts so that you can talk to the younger exiled parts. This book isn't touching into any of those exiles. If you have trauma, you don't have to talk about the trauma. You don't have to relive the trauma. You just have, this is all about just the day-to-day triggered responses that we're constantly living in. This is about helping those parts of us just feel more at ease so that we don't have to live from extreme part to extreme part and be the victim of our bad behavior, quote unquote. It's not bad behavior. It's protection mechanisms. It's protector parts. And we don't have to shame ourselves anymore.
Can we talk a little bit about the protectors? Because I know there's the protector part and then there's the firefighter, right?
Yeah. So there's 2 sides of protectors. Look at you, bro. The 2 types of protectors. One is the manager, and a manager is commonly with us on a day-to-day basis, right? So, at work, you might have, I think a manager for you could be a people pleaser, maybe just like, I don't want to name your parts, but like, maybe it's a part that's like kind of around throughout the day, kind of just like making sure everybody else is okay. So like, I'm good. And then it makes me feel safe and, that kind of thing. For me, it might be the controller. Like I would just show up here and there. And there's parts of us that are sort of like maybe socially acceptable, but they're present throughout the day and they kind of show up and we're just like, that's who I am. I'm controlling, whatever that might be. I'm a people pleaser, whatever that is. But then there's the firefighters. And when the managers aren't working anymore, right? So let's say we've been trying to control everything, but that's not working and I'm so extreme. Then what would I do when I was back in the day using drugs? I'd pick up cocaine. I'd pick up alcohol, and those are the addict parts, the firefighters. And so now, 18 and a half years clean and sober, that firefighter part, that addict isn't there anymore, but maybe there is another firefighter in my life, which could be that the outrage, right? That might just like come out. So firefighters are usually oftentimes the addictive parts. They can be more violent in nature. They can be also very dissociative, like just checking out. Like, bye, good night, I'm going to sleep. That's a firefighter I have, literally falling asleep. It's like, nope, out. And so in the book, I don't really deal with firefighters much. We talk about them. There's a chapter on firefighters, but I'm not really trying to get too heavily into the addict roles, but really focusing more on the managers, more on the trigger responses, the parts of us that are with us on a day-to-day basis that are just constantly in protection mode, trigger response, trigger response, trigger response. Those guys I want to work with.
And is it fair to say that part of this is becoming, what's the word? Like, not angrier with those parts, right? Like
Yes. It's about befriending these parts and respecting them. It's not asking the question to these parts of like, what are you doing? It's why.
Mm-hmm.
What's the intention behind this?
Intention.
And when you start to look at the intent behind these roles that we play, you can see really quickly, like, if I were to ask that part of you, the people pleaser, what's the intent behind it? I mean, you don't have to answer it now, but to think about that for yourself. What is it that you're trying? What is it that you need, right? That's the question about intent. What do you need? And usually they're like, I just need to be seen, or I need to feel safe. Or, the controller just needs to feel safe. And so we're not judging these parts of ourselves. We're becoming curious about them. It's really cool.
The not judging part, I think, is incredibly profound, because I do think that for the majority of people, like, judge their behavior on some level or other.
All freaking day, bro, right? They're like anyone listening right now in the room, we've got Wolf, we've got Rhea. Do you guys notice yourself judging yourselves throughout the day? Wolf's like a Buddha, maybe not. But
Yeah, I do.
yeah, Rhea, right? Like just those self-judgment, self-attack. I know that whenever I'm in those situations where I like overshare, overtalk, or like I have a part that likes to be like very like fixer part. Of course, I mean, it's part, but that fixer part has a very important role as well, right? But sometimes she goes overboard and she's like trying to save people that don't want to be saved.
Right.
And so after those moments, I walk away and I'm like ashamed of that. And I'm like, Gabby, you're such a idiot. Like, that's what I'll say to myself. I'll look in the mirror and say that. But then I'll do the 4-step check-in process and I'll get back to the place of like, no, you have a good intention, but that part of you, just wants to override people because you think you know best or whatever. And it's not even because you think you know best. It's getting deeper into the intent. What is the intent? It's, something very deep underneath that, right? So it's a beautiful way of living when you stop judging yourself and you start caring for your inner condition. That's what this book is about. And I can't wait to workshop it with people. Like, I can't wait. I'm actually so thrilled that I'm doing that pre-order event to lead people to a full day with me, like 6-hour day. And again, like, come for an hour, come for 20 minutes. But it's like a live online experience to just like get deep in this. And people can be workshopped in the 4-step check-in process. You're going to master it by the time the workshop is over. And so just as a reminder of people listening, like, we launched the book today. It's on Amazon. All you have to do is just go to deargabby.com/self-help and you pre-order it, and you're going to get this whole day where I can start workshopping this with you. This conversation is like the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
We have so much coming, and that full day, imagine your favorite author or whoever you like, or this beautiful book that you want to read, and they come in, they teach it to you before you even have to go down the journey. It's like 10 steps ahead. So cool.
It's so cool. Like I said earlier in this conversation, like, how that sets you up then to read the book is going to be, you're going to have such a rich experience.
You're going to have such a rich experience of this book. So thanks for just diving in with me on it. I love you. I mean, it's like we're going to be talking about this for the next 2 years.
Can I ask you one quick question before we go?
Yes.
So where did this come from? Where did IFS land, and how did it land in your life?
I was practicing IFS with my therapist for a decade, but I didn't realize it. And then I started watching this YouTube video one afternoon, and it was this man, Dick Schwartz, talking at a conference about this internal family systems therapy. And as he started to describe it and parts and connecting to the parts and the process that he uses, I just like leapt off the table and I was like, oh my God, this is the that I've been doing. Like, this is the profound work that has been happening in my therapy for a decade. And then I very quickly had Dick on the podcast. He was one of the first 3 people to have on the podcast.
Yep.
And then got trained in IFS, became a practitioner, and wrote about it in Happy Days. And then now have written about it in this book, and hope to just carry the message and teach it in a way that's very easy for people. And for folks who may never have the privilege of being able to have this experience in a therapy session, to have the gift of IFS in this book. And Here we are, self-help. This is your chance to change your life.
Love it.
Go to deargabby.com. Go check it out, guys. deargabby.com/self-help. Grab your pre-order today. For the next week, you can get a VIP ticket, which means that you get an after party. You get to ask questions throughout the day. It's a live online full day event with me in November. It's going to rock your world. It is going to set you up to win. So if you know you're going to buy the book anyway, this is the actual moment because those VIP tickets are going to expire.
That's a good point. That's
yeah,
a good
like
point.
if you sort of like, if you're like, yeah, I like Gabby's books, I'm going to buy it anyway. Like go grab it now. So it's all the details are deargabby.com/self-help. This is literally just such a transformational book. It's going to give people so much hope and empowerment.
Well, I'm just so excited that this conversation is going to continue through the rest of the year and beyond. And I know there's so many people you're going to talk to besides me, but so many real experts in it. And that's really thrilling.
Yeah, we're gonna produce this conversation here. We love it. Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you. Love you. If you like this video and you want to get more Gabby, check out the next one right over here.